NFL free agency is underway, and it's time to dole out some early grades presented by the United States Marine Corps, and a team that has surprised everyone with how aggressive and active they've been is, of course, the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick, not known for splashing the cash, but after his first losing season in forever and watching his former quarterback win a Super Bowl without him, Bill is throwing cash around like Gronk at the club. The Pats signing not one, but two of the league's top tight ends, re-signing quarterback Cam Newton, adding wide receivers Nelson Agholor and Kendrick Bourne, and adding three new faces to the defense. Here's some of the key signings that they've done so far. They've made some defensive line signings as well. Devon Godchaux from Miami, Henry Anderson from the Jets, Kyle Van Noy coming over from the Dolphins, Trent Brown also in to bolster this offensive line. And a man who's not a teacher by trade, but for all intents and purposes, a teacher by choice for us tonight, two-time Super Bowl champion, Bryant McFadden, here to dole out some free agency grades. BMAC, Bill has gone back to his core values for the Patriots. He's come up with his must, need, and want list this offseason, and he has attacked that list with a veracity with which we are unfamiliar. Everyone else zigs. Bill zags. What are your thoughts on what the Patriots have done so far?
Bill Belichick has been very, very aggressive. I mean, clearly, the disappointing season that we saw last year was something that they would like to put behind them, and now they're putting all their focus on this upcoming season. And the best way to do so is start adding some veteran experience to their ball club on both sides of the football. Number one, they were able to bring back Cam Newton. I like that move because clearly, he was the best quarterback option on their team. And hopefully, if he can get a full offseason with this ball club and stay healthy, we will see a more consistent, efficient Cam Newton. But to be able to see that from your quarterback, you must provide him reliable pass catchers. And they went out and got the two best available tight ends that were on the market, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. When those guys are healthy, they're a top tier like talent at the tight end position, especially in the red zone. So when you factor in the quarterback, when you factor in the tight ends, along with Matt Judon and top tier like pass rusher, he definitely will elevate the defensive front. I give the New England Patriots an A-. And the reason why I go A-, I talked about the positives with the tight ends and the pass rusher, and then Jalen Mills, adding him to the secondary. Also, Kyle Van Noy, he returns back home. Don't forget about the trade for Trent Brown. I think he would be a much better player in a New England Patriots uniform than what we saw last year in Vegas. But the reason why I give them an A-, Jeremy, is because looking at the wide receiver position, they went out and spent some real good money on Nelson Agholor and Kendrick Bourne. But it's safe to say at the beginning of the season last year, both of those guys were considered the number 3 pass catcher, to say the least. And then eventually, because of injury, Nelson Agholor was elevated to the number 2 pass catcher, especially when Tyrell Williams went out with that season-ending injury. But you could have spent that money at that position on other players. I'm not saying that, you know, they're not good players, but when you look at the wide receiver market, Jeremy, I felt like there were better names. And when you combine their salary, their total contract number is almost $50 million for Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Agholor. So because of that concern, I give them an A-, but in totality, very, very aggressive moves thus far. And because of that, A-.
Juju Smith-Schuster still out there. There's a guy that maybe you would have thought might look pretty good in the Patriots uniform. But okay, A- for the Patriots. Next up, let's talk about the football team. They cut ties with quarterback Alex Smith. That was a very interesting situation and how that all played out. They bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick, or Fitzmagic, as he's known. Added wide receiver Curtis Samuel. Franchise tag Brandon Sheriff. What do you make of what Ron Rivera and company have done so far?
B+. Riverboat Ron is doing a real good job. Number one, you went out and got the top corner that was on the market, William Jackson. I think he's an athletic guy, and the best years are yet to come for William Jackson, and hopefully they see that in a Washington Football Club uniform. Number two, you go out and get Curtis Samuel, a do-it-all like offensive weapon. You pair him up with Terry McLaurin, man, you have to like that duo of pass catchers for that guy with the thick beard. Ryan Fitzpatrick, they've upgraded at the wide receiver position. They've upgraded at the quarterback position. Being able to tag Brandon Sheriff and hopefully get a long-term deal with him done will be important. But yet and still, he will be in a Washington Football Club uniform this upcoming season as well. So I love all the moves they've made. And I know Ryan Fitzpatrick might not blow you away at the quarterback spot, but that's an improvement based on what we saw from that position in Washington last year. And Ryan Fitzpatrick can be more than a serviceable quarterback, especially if he has a reliable supporting cast surrounding him. And I love his pass catchers that he has, Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin, and also Antonio Gibson in the backfield. They got some nice young pieces there. And don't forget about the defensive front as well. So like I said, adding William Jackson to the defensive front, that defensive front that terrorized every opposing quarterback they face, they've gotten better so far this offseason. And because of that, they get a nice B+.
Yeah, quarterback position has not been a good one for the football team. Of course, with what happened with Dwayne Haskins last year. I mean, Alex Smith, a great story, but that seemed like a kind of an acrimonious exit. So we'll see what Fitzpatrick can do when he comes in. The Chicago Bears have been reportedly offering up anything and everything to try and pry Russell Wilson from Seattle, though that may cool down now that they have the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, in the house. Allen Robinson appears to be staying on the tag. What about this Bears team, B-Mac?
I'm sorry, Chicago fans. I got to give you a D+. You didn't get a D-. I give you a D+. And here's why. When you make it known you're going to be aggressive in trying to acquire Russell Wilson, you made it known to the public, we're going to try to go out and get a quarterback in Russell Wilson, and you don't get Russell and you have to settle for Andy Dalton, that is a big disappointment. And it's not a disappointment because the quarterback you're settling for. It's a disappointment because you didn't go get Russell Wilson, and now you have to rely on who? Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton still is a competitive quarterback, I believe. I think he still can win you ball games. But unfortunately for Andy Dalton, he wasn't the first option. So if you don't get the first option and the second option is nowhere close to the first option, you're disappointed. And I think that has been the issue currently for the Chicago Bears fans. And I think they would agree with me. A D+ is a fair grade for them. You went out and got Andy Dalton. You signed Mario Edwards. I think he's a guy that can be a real good addition. Another quality athletic guy on the defensive front. Deion Bush, another guy, add to the secondary, but he's not going to blow you away with his production. And there's a good chance you may lose Kyle Fuller as well. So right now, when you look at their division, I think every team in the NFC North, they've gotten better. It's safe to say the Chicago Bears, they're a bit stagnant right now, and that's not good when you're looking at trying to compete in the NFC North. So because of that, and just settling for Andy Dalton, they get a D+. It's not a D-, Jeremy, it's a D+. I think it's fair.
They bring Russell Wilson, and it changes everything in terms of how that division looks. The Bears actually might be competitive when you have a guy like Allen Robinson, who's arguably a top 3 wide receiver in the league. He just doesn't have the quarterback there. And of course, Trubisky's now gone to back up at the Bills, and now you have Dalton, who's been told he will be QB1. I mean, the Chicago situation, B-Mac, I'm with you. D+, that's a charitable grade for them. When you look at free agency in terms of the landscape as a whole, which team for you has really muffed it so far?
The Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys. And oddly enough, Jeremy, every year they're a Super Bowl contender, allegedly. Every year, they're like the New York Knicks of the NFL. Every year they're supposed to compete for a championship. And if you're trying to compete for a championship and the only big thing you did was bring back Dak Prescott, and I applaud them for getting that contract done, no. This has been a bit let down for them so far in free agency, and here's why. You signed Dak Prescott. Great job. Thank you. You had to do that. You're a year too late, but you did it. But what was the issue for them last year, Jeremy? Defense. Who had the worst defense in the NFC East last year? The Dallas Cowboys. So how can you be a competitive playoff-bound team if you have yet to improve on the defensive side? You look at some of their moves. They signed C.J. Goodwin. They were able to bring back Jordan Lewis. They brought in Brent Urban. They just signed Carlos Watkins. Names that really don't light your fire, to say the least. When you look at some of the other big names, serviceable names that have been available via free agency, you still got Sue out there, you got Xavier Rhodes, you had Pat Peterson, you got Richard Sherman, you got Sheldon Rankins, you got Anthony Harris, you got Melvin Ingram, all experienced guys that can improve their defense, but they have yet to make any significant moves on that side. So because of that, the only noteworthy thing they've done was signing Dak Prescott. The offense carried this team last year. It's safe to say the offense carried this team 2 years ago. And it's going to be the same thing this upcoming season because they've yet to make any splash signings on the defensive side. And because of that, they've fumbled the football so far.
F for fumble. And you just wonder sometimes if general managers and coaches, they just get in their own heads a little bit too much when you talk about what you're saying makes sense in terms of the signings that they should have looked at. But the ones that they've made, it just kind of seems like they may be overthinking things a little bit.
Jeremy, the Achilles heel for them last year was defense. I mean, they had to score points almost every drive. They've done nothing to improve the defense, and I'm so disappointed because I feel like their division in the NFC East is wide open. But the other teams in their division, they've gotten better. Like I said, the only noteworthy thing they've done was signing Dak Prescott. I applaud them, but defensively, they're still the same unit. Might even be worse than what they were last year on paper right now.
And as you said, the offense is going to have to carry this team, but that is if the offense stays healthy. Okay, we talked about the Patriots addressing their needs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Super Bowl champions, I mean, they're keeping the band together here, B-Mac. The Chiefs have addressed some needs as well without losing a lot. When you look at the teams that deserve the highest marks so far, who have you got?
It's the Buccaneers, A+. Yes, the band is back together, but the band might be better than the championship band from last year. And the reason why I say that is it's safe to say this might be more of a normal offseason for ball clubs. And if that's the case, Tom Brady will get more acclimated with the guys in the Buccaneers uniforms. They've been able to bring back Chris Godwin under the tag. They signed Shaq Barrett. They brought back Levante David. They signed Rob Gronkowski. Still trying to figure out a way to sign Leonard Fournette. If they're not able to do so, there's a little birdie that's telling me they're trying to go out and get James White, who's familiar with Tom Brady. Tom Brady is familiar with him, and he would be an ideal third down back for that offense. So I love everything they've been able to do in retaining some of their key players from that championship ball club last year. And you don't usually see that, Jeremy. Think about this. Most championship teams, when they get to that level and win a title, there are so many other organizations that they're trying to pluck players from that success they've had last year. Teams have not been able to pluck players from the Buccaneers. I didn't think they had a shot in signing Shaq Barrett, especially when they tagged Chris Godwin. I'm sorry, when they tagged Chris Godwin and when they signed Levante David, they found a way to retain all their noteworthy names, not knowing exactly what will happen with Sue. But if they're not able to bring back Ndamukong Suh, they still have a nice defensive unit, in my opinion. So for me personally, everything that they've done has been A+ worthy, and they're getting an A+ from me.
And it shows you the value of a guy like Tom Brady coming in, what he's been able to do for that franchise, because guys are taking salary haircuts to stay with the Bucs because they honestly believe that they can run it back again. B-Mac, great stuff as always. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us here on HQ, and be sure to join B-Mac and Patrick Peterson on All Things Covered, the podcast. Of course, they'll be discussing all the free agent moves, and of course, Pat P making that move to Minneapolis. Download and subscribe wherever you get your preferred audio.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.